Hello beer tubers and welcome to another beer review with me, Peter, the master of hoppets. Today comparing two vintages of some seasonal beer. So we got two bottles here from Germany, from Ayinger, Brauerei Ayinger in Aying, and this is their winter Bock. So I picked up a fresh bottle and we're going to compare that to a bottle from 2016. This is an almost 9-year-old bottle. So 8 years now, pushing 9. So it's quite old. And this is another bottle I got, a vintage bottle I was gifted from Enzo. So thanks to Enzo for the beer. He used to be the manager of the Brauerei store in Bamberg, and he's helped me get some awesome German beers, having shipped over some stuff that was only available in Germany. You had to use like German web shops and he would ship it on to me. So thanks a ton, dude. He added some extras in one of those boxes and I've already reviewed the others, but this one I saved because I wanted to pair it with a fresh vintage of the Winter Bock. So I waited until I could find a fresh vintage of the Winter Bock and I found one. So we can do it. But it is a Doppelbock on 6.7%. And Aying is very famous. Ayinger is very famous for the Doppelbock called Celebrator, which is one of the best Doppelbocks in the world. It's fucking awesome. And this is quite similar to that beer, to my memory. And at one point, I actually thought it was the same beer. But apparently, if you look them up, the IBUs are at least different. So it could be different recipes, but that this is inspired by the famous Celebrator. But this is just only made for the wintertime. I kind of had an idea that it was basically Celebrator in a half-liter bottle for the wintertime. But I couldn't find any info about it, other than the fact that this is a seasonal release. So yeah, here we go. 6.7% on both. And yeah, you can definitely see that the old bottle, is older because there's some stuff growing on it because it's been an Enzo cellar, and it's also a different kind of bottle. But doesn't matter. Let's check them out and start with the fresh vintage. Just comparing the colors. Really interesting pouring them out. They look pretty much the same, but pouring out the vintage one, it was more brown looking and it had a darker head. And you can also see, holding it up to the light, not as much light penetrates the beer. And I think that's a color change due to oxidation. But I wouldn't imagine a brewery like Aying changing up the recipe on some of their classic beers, unless it's minor changes to dial stuff in. But a lot of these beers have been brewed for so long that they're going to be pretty much the same thing. But let's start off with the fresh vintage here. I'm really looking forward to this. Thanks a ton to Enzo for the beer as well, the vintage one. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's got like a little bit of a ruby reddish tone, but it's really dark. It's an extremely dark Doppelbock. Head retention on this, the lacing just looks so inviting. It has like this thick, frothy crown alongside the rim of the glass that I almost don't want to wash away when swirling. I'm gonna try not to. Let's smell it. Intensely rye bready. Like really, really chewy rye bread, pumpernickel bread, and touches of caramel and touches of chocolate. Just a little bit, maybe more, not loads of chocolate. There's something in there that reminds me of that. But it's so intensely bready. This is all about malt and rich maltiness, really, really hefty breadiness with caramel toffee tones and maybe even an apple, caramelized red apple note. Super clean, but smelling really intense and rich for a 6.7% beer. Smells great. Let's try it. Cheers. This is fucking well made Bock. It's almost got like coffee flavors. There is some kind of dark malt in there. Chocolate malt or roasted barley or something, just lightly. Because coffee, you wouldn't get that from crystal malts usually. Well, maybe some. I'm not entirely sure actually, because you can get some weird crystal malts, and maybe they're actually light roasted malts. Like you can get Castle malting to make like cafe light, I think it's called, or something like that. That's really good. It's very toffee, coffee, rye bready. There's a little bit of almost like brown sugar notes to it. Almost like what we call siopskage in Denmark, which is like a kind of like a sponge cake with cinnamon in it and then syrup, like caramelized syrup. And I think sometimes there's also like a syrupy caramel frosting or something like that on top. There's something that reminds me of that. and then like rye bread, or like if people do rye bread cakes. Like there's so much like rye bread on this. There's no rye in it. There's not like the spice of rye, I think. It's just like, there's maybe some spice, but that's maybe more hoppiness and like light bitterness. But it reminds me of like these dense rye bread cakes, because we do make cakes with rye bread in Denmark. Although Siop's K does not have that. Yeah, and then the toffee, slightly coffee like, almost like cold brew-esque or something. It's almost like slightly stout-like, almost. Or it still feels like a Bock because of all the robust breadness and whatnot. But like, this is for a classic beer, somewhat experimental. Because if you think of like a Baltic porter and stuff like that, this is not super far away. Like, not at all. And it's made in Germany and it's brewed as a Doppelbock. So there is definitely something there where it's like pushing boundaries, but back in the day, which I think is really fun. Like, this is as much craft as a lot of other things. It's just older. It's just older. Great, great, great fucking Bock. So let's try and move over to the aged one. I'm sure we're going to pinpoint that it's aged immediately, because usually you pick that up quite quickly. Well, look at it. You can probably see the rim there on the glass. That's awesome. So again, this looks darker than the other one, and it even has a little bit of haze, which is probably because it is old. It can happen with oxidation. So let's check it out. See how it is. Thanks a ton, Enzo. And also darker head. Yeah, that's so funny. This smells like a Bock. This smells like a barley wine. Smells like a light barley wine with rye bread. There is so much more oxidative dark fruit in this. But this might be the best and most compelling aroma of all the vintage bottles that I got from Enzo. And I had a feeling it might be. But yeah, it's just going into barley wine territory. It's exactly the same as this, but the soft coffee chocolate-esque notes are gone. It's amplified all the caramel toffee vibes. And also the rye bread is a bit more subdued. And then sherry as well. You can definitely smell that it's an aged beer. And this expired in 2017. It's 6.7%. It's going to be okay. Let's try it. Cheers for science. A lot of carbonation still. Less than that. Man. That's almost fucking 9 years in the bottle. This drinks awesomely. What? I'm usually not a big fan of aging beer these days. This is fucking great. What the fuck? This is actually a beer you can age. It's been aged under the right conditions, I'm sure. It still feels so alive. What the hell? I think it's also because the flavors that are in here complement the age profile. It's vastly different though. Yeah, that's so much more alive. The hops are still there a little bit. The coffee. It's like, maybe not chocolate, coconut vibe. That's completely lost in this. Like if you drank this blind and you smelled it, I would immediately think like, some kind of barley wine maybe? And not a Doppelbock. It'd be fun to see Ayinger, because this one is so good, try and do a stronger version of this that they put in barrels. Because I think this is a beer, like a Doppelbock, they could work on to put in barrels. Because it has all the potential of something to age flavor-wise. If the base beer was just more robust, you could do like a classic German-style beer aged in barrels, which would be really cool. But this is really fucking great. This is fucking impressive, man. There's even mold very close to the cap, it looks like. And there's no off flavor or anything. It's also really impressive because the CO2, it's not that different. It's not that different. It's not like this is really lackluster in CO2, which can happen with age. This has been aged so well. It really surprises me. Again, lots of caramel, toffee, oxidative sherry kind of notes. It's more sherry than port. And loads of caramel and fudge. Really creamy too. the kind of fruitiness in the fresh version is completely gone with age. It's just really favors all these kind of, well, besides maybe dark fruits, but it really accentuates all the caramel nuances you get in it. Unlike the breadiness, all that rye bread is almost like completely gone in favor of lots of caramel and like fudgy notes and oxidative sherry, maybe even port wine nuances, without being too much. It's not like heavily oxidized and like, but I feel like you should not maybe age it much longer than this bottle. Maybe 10 years could be good for this and still be a really nice drinking experience and quite different than the fresh one. But I've been so like, I don't want to age most beers too long. A few years can be okay with the strong beers, but like, I don't want to put like a barrel-aged beer in the cellar for 10 years and then crack it to see how it is. But it can work out. But it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble. There's one style where it's not a gamble, and that's lambic or wild ale. But this is really nice. That was a surprise. So let's get some grades here. I think these are pretty phenomenal Doppelbocks. They're so balanced. Like they're rich, but not too rich, so that they're still drinkable. And they're sweet, but not too sweet either. No bitterness or anything. Like there's some hoppiness about this one, but it's not like bitterness or anything really in there. It's like there's a touch of dryness, but it's just like it's just balanced really, really well. This tastes like beer that's brewed a million times, and they really know what they're doing. It's really close to a world-class Doppelbock for me. I think maybe I just enjoy Cheddar Boato a little bit more, but hard to say. Maybe it's just the day. I'm gonna go like 94 or something like that on the fresh one because it's fucking great. It's close to world class. Maybe a 95 if it's I don't know, even fresher, or if it's a vintage thing, but it's between 94 and 95. Small world class. Fucking great Doppelbock, like the benchmark Doppelbock, and different than a lot of the rest. And then the aged one is fucking great. I'm so surprised how well this has held up. Because usually aging beer is just not always great, but in this case, it fucking works. So in terms of a grade on the aged one, I'm 93, like just a little bit lower. I like the fresh one a little bit more. Or maybe even a 94. It could be the same grade. Like there's just notes in here that are different, but still really nice, and it's not like off and like undrinkable or too aged. This is just an example of where aging works really well. So 90, 93, 94, 94, 95 on the fresh one. Also, what's interesting is like the lacing is better on the fresh one. But yeah, really fun to do this one. Awesome Doppelbocks. If you are into Doppelbocks, you should get some Ayinger Winterbock. It's out now for the winter time. They released these in November, I think, and then they're sold during the winter, and then that's it. And then they come back for the next winter. But get it right now because it's still available in a lot of places, and it's great. So if you guys already have the Winterbock from Ayinger, let me know what you thought of it. As always, comment, subscribe, check out the Facebook fan page and Twitter and Instagram. Give the video a thumbs up, enjoy it, and ring the bell for future notifications about videos. And I want to say cheers. See you guys in another beer review.